We have a 2000 G16 U. It's been sitting for, I'm going to say since 2013. The battery was flat. I'm attempting to charge it, which I know I'm probably just pissing into the wind. But we're going to try to charge it anyway just to see what kind of result we get. I know that we're wasting time doing this. I'm probably just going to stop and change the battery out. It is the incorrect battery anyway. I believe it's only a group 70. I'm sorry, group 25. This is the battery it should be. This battery's got some dust. Or 24, group 24F, or it could be a group 24C. But this is the size battery we need. The difference between the two is one has positive and negative terminals reversed. So take a look inside the tank. There's some, it's very strong. There's a lot of debris in there. There's a bunch of dirt in the bottom of the tank, which I'm not too concerned about the dirt. I mean, but you can see there's also like sticks down in there. I'm going to see if I can get them out with my grabber, but that's what's in it. It doesn't smell really bad, the gas, so I'm thinking if I throw some stabilizer in it, I might be able to rejuvenate it. But there's a whole bunch of sticks in there we got to get out. We got to change the filters. The cover's actually just kind of flopping here. It's not even really mounted properly. I was going to get some video of this cart, what it looked like before I washed it. Oh, blown fuse. Now it's popped, so let's change the fuse. Another 10 amp fuse. Should never replace these with anything higher than what it has. Usually a blown fuse is an indicator that the solenoid is starting to go, or the internal diode is going, and it's getting surge. Okay, hook our battery charger back up. I would be very, very surprised if this thing starts. Holy crap. Now there's nothing to say that the carburetor is not going to block up later on down the road with this gnarly gas that's in it, because I really have no idea how old it is. Okay, so this cover does not want to go back on properly. Find out why. Probably just because it's all bent out of whack here. I can't get a good line up on it because of the... Okay, it's in. Just cover back on, and I'm going to suggest, highly suggest, we do a full service on this thing. See how this thing looks. Oop, yep. It's a bit dirty. This side's always looking clean. People look at this side and they say, oh, the filter's good. And it's like, no, it breathes through this side. And there's also no pre-filter installed, so we'll have to add a pre-filter. So I'm back on this cart here. It's the next day, and it's feather the pedal here. We can get it started without choking it. There we go. So it fires right up. Alright, so one thing we have to do is, before before we could really do anything else, is we got to get that. We got to get the sticks. You could actually see them kind of floating around in there, and they're actually down by the dip tube now, so we got to get them out. Just going to use my grabber tingy. You can see there's one. Chunks of bark and hair. I'll get out as much as I can with this tool. See, hopefully that'll, probably won't focus on it, but one of them discs that goes underneath the bottle cap of fuel treatment bottles or whatever you want to use there. I'm not going to be able to get all this out without draining the tank. We're not going to mess with it. It's actually clear, so that's about all we can get out with that. Let's see how the filters look here. Here's a filter right here. Oh, that's stuck. There we go. So yeah, there is some large solid waste in here. Let's see, and just so you can see, there's some pretty large solids in there. I don't see much in the way of water. There is some moisture. This stupid thing will focus. See, there is some moisture in that filter. So we're definitely going to be changing filters for sure. It's now a third day. We got this cart back in the shop here. We're going to continue with the full service. We're going to add some side mirrors to it, and then we're going to top the gas tank off with some 93 and fuel stabilizer at the same time in order to just make sure everything's okay. Now I like to add, oops, wipe that up. I'm going to add 2 doses of this. Okay, so that's 2 ounces. It's going to be in a 5-gallon can. Mix the super in there, and that should help quite a bit. At least it has in my past experience. As we can tell, this is an old generation. I mean, you could see how dirty that is, and that's dirty. Not terrible. I mean, I've seen them worse. And I usually blow this stuff out when it's bad, but it's not that bad. Sometimes you end up blowing it down into the carburetor and you create more work for yourself, so it's just better to leave it alone. That's what the pre-filter does, is it stops all that from getting clogged into the main filter and blocking it. Oh, look at that, that came right off. Let's see if I can, I don't know if you guys can see that at all. You can kind of see some of the, like all that stuff is on the inside of the filter. That's not on the outside. Some of it's on the outside, but most of that stuff is on the inside. I can see water in that, so we'll take our fuel lines. Remember, pay attention to the arrow. Oops, see, now you see how this fuel line's cracked. We'll just take a side cutters, a pair of dikes, nice sharp dikes, and we'll trim it off so it's nice and smooth. And then we'll slip it right back over. It'll be a nice tight fit. I'm actually going to trim that other side as well. Because it has cracks on the end, a little bit dry rotted, so we'll come back. There we go, nice fresh rubber. It'll make a nice tight seal so it won't draw any air. Okay, put the fuel line back in here and then twist your little hose clamps. Ooh, look at that, that wasn't even tight. Wow, That could have been contributing to some running issues in the future. Because a lot of people are afraid to put these in and tighten them down, because what they do is they feel it, the washer squashing, and it feels like it's stripping out. That's actually not that bad. Got a nice brown texture. There's not a lot of carbon buildup on it. Brand new plug. Okay. Now remember, you don't have to go crazy nuts with these, but you do have to squash that. What the hell? You have to squash that washer for sure. So it'll feel like it's stripping out the first couple of turns, and then once it really tightens up, you just give it a little noogie, and she's tight. Okay. Belt's good. We have to change this oil because it's been in here a while. Even though it looks clean, I can see that it's a little runny. So there's definitely some moisture in it. Let's see if we can... You seem to... These are going to be a bit... Oh, that's tight. I think what we're going to need to do is give them a shot of penetrating oil. Because we got to get this battery secured. We can't leave it like this. An old P-blaster. Wires are a little unkempt here. Okay. Gotta service this battery. Get this straightened out properly here. Sure, but oh, there it goes. Okay. A lot of times you can grab the bracket from the bottom and hold it so it don't move. Yeah, this one's coming out nicely. A little stiff, but it is working its way up. So all we got to do is move it. We don't have to. We don't need to take it off completely. We just need to move it so we can relocate the position of this bracket. There we go. A little warm. Warm from that friction. Reattach the hook. Let's see if we can. There we go. Okay. So now, that's where it's supposed to attach to. I'm going to move it back. Now we'll re-anchor the battery. Just like touching. Camera was probably jiggling around. Sorry about that. It's very stiff on the retract. Battery secured. That's what we needed. Straighten out these wires a little bit. Because when the wires are a mess, you got to realize how much chaos it creates under the seat here. When nothing is done the way it's supposed to. I understand, you know. I used to do the same thing when I got my first golf cart. I don't know what size these are. But, we're going to just straighten up these wires a little bit. As you can see, they just hang. They're not properly zip tied or anything to anything in here. They're just kind of like cattywampus, basically. Got these wires coming up from the front of the cart. And what we're going to do is I'm going to zip tie them to this frame. The mistake people make when they're running wires on a golf cart is they don't pay attention to their ground clearance most of the time. And then what happens is when somebody like me comes along to do repairs, those wires that are dragging get pulled off when it's loaded on a trailer or put on a ramp or something or on a lift. This just gets all the buildup off of the terminals. Reverse order, positive first. You can see this has a split. They cut the metal out so they can slide it over. There we go. Hope you guys can see this. Keeps this open and clear. And then we can connect our negative terminal here. Always go positive first, then negative when connecting, and then negative first, positive when you're disconnecting. Good. Now, just to make it look neater, we're going to send a zip tie around this cluster of wires. I'm not going to go and rewire the cart. She doesn't want me to do it, so. This is wire that's rated for AC voltage, not DC, so it'll work. It'll work. It'll be just fine. Just got to keep them away from that muffler is all, and away from dragging on the bottom of the cart when it's in motion. Okay. Battery is a little weak in this thing, but it's working though. You hear how it hesitates when it cranks over? That's because the battery's not big enough. Okay. See, we're just under 12 volts with this meter. Showing weak, but it's not dropping like a rock, so. Alright, it passes. Passes my test anyway, so let's see if our charging system is working. It still cranks over. Charging system passes. It's charging where Yamaha's charge, which is 15 volts. Roughly. battery tie downs down. Okay, we're basically done with the electrical. Now we just got to check the lights. That one's working. That one's working. Belt deflection is good. It's not wore out. It doesn't have any premature cracking. Drive belt is good. It actually looks fairly new. There's no cracking on it. So we're good. We got the fuse changed. So now let's do engine oil. $17mm. Broken off. Okay. Always pull the dipstick so that way you get a nice. Oh, it's very, very runny. Very runny and it stinks. Definitely needed to be changed for sure. Yeah, it definitely doesn't smell like oil. And our washer is still on there. Okay, so it's just finger tight at the moment. And then I'll get it, and then just give it a whack. And just some light taps just to make sure it's seated properly. And then wipe it all off. Okay. And this is a very shitty metal oil can from Napa. It leaks everywhere, so I got to use a rag on it. So don't add any more than a quart. Use regular 10W30. There you go. 1 quart to the right to the line perfectly. Oil light went out, so we know the oil light works. Okay, we're done under the seat. The only thing the customer didn't want to do yet was this back seat. As you can see, it is it's rotted out, but she doesn't want to change it yet. She's not concerned with the back seat since nobody sits back here anyway. But she does want to put these on. We're going to put a set of side view mirrors on it, come in a pair. Over on the website, kevinsgolfcarts.com, ACC-1021. You get 2 of these, 2 side view mirrors, 2 holes, and there's a 10mm nut to adjust the tension. And then you get a pack of screws and washers. I don't use the included hardware, I use self-tapping screws. You get an instruction sheet. So when I'm installing these, I use these self-tapping screws. I find that they work a lot better. They also have this rubber washer on them, so it prevents any squeaking and all that stuff. So I fold them all the way out so I can get access to the mounting hole. I'll put the self-tapper in the hole. I'll set the top hole first, the top screw, using my little impact driver. And I typically line them up with the top of the windshield, right about here. And then basically put a little weight into it and screw it in. I don't put them in super mega tight yet until I get the bottom one in. And then I crank them down a little bit. And there you have it. And then I'll adjust the 10mm nut on the bottom to ensure that it's nice and firm. Okay, so I just take a little 1/4 drive ratchet. Just tighten the 10mm nut up, a couple of turns just to make sure it stays firm. It's spring loaded, so you can't really tighten it too much, but then you can see it's not as loose now. And then for towing, I fold them in. So all you gotta do is repeat that process on the other side, and you have yourself a nice set of UTV style mirrors. Alright, so there you have it, guys. There is, pardon the mess of my shop, it is packed with shit and I just have nowhere to put anything. There you go. The other one, nice and firm. Looks good. We're going to be moving hopefully by the end of the season here. I'm going to tighten this one up a little bit more, but that's basically it. So there you go. Now you have 2 side mirrors installed. Okay, this cart's done. Let's get the next job in here.